Maybe you think he did it, but do you think that there is reasonable doubt, and therefore, even if he did it, that maybe he should get off? Because I got to tell you, I'm talking to people now who have a totally different perspective based on these tapes. The defense has pulled all kinds of tricks and has had all kinds of public posturing and what have you as the trial has worn on. But these tapes, Mark Furman was the star witness for the prosecution, and it certainly sounds like his credibility has been mortally wounded. So I'm wondering now if you're hearing all this discussion about these Furman tapes, and I'm wondering if you've changed your mind. I know there's a lot of people out there who've been just saying OJ's guilty, OJ's guilty, OJ's guilty. And you know where I'm coming from on this? I still think OJ did it. But I'm beginning to believe that the defense has succeeded in creating reasonable doubt. It wasn't easy. And it's going to cost OJ a lot of money, but it seems to me that the defense has successfully managed to create a reasonable doubt in people just walking around and probably on the jury, since that represents theoretically a cross-section of those of us who are just bopping around out here. I got to believe that this is going to be like the last nail in the prosecution's coffin. There's even talk that they're going to go for an acquittal. They're not going to settle for a hung jury or a mistrial. They want to go directly to the jury and try to get an acquittal for O.J. Simpson. So let's get your reaction to this. This explanation for Furman is preposterous. He had a mental block. He had a mental block! Most people I know believe Mark Furman perjured himself, that he is a liar, that he lied on the witness stand, that he figured that there was no way these tapes would find their way into the public's ears, no way that they would find their way into this trial. And in the beginning, it looked like he and his representatives may have been right. Remember, originally Johnny Cochran went to Carolina and he tried to get those tapes and was told, no, you can't have them. They're not going. We're not going to compel the owner of the tapes, Ms. Hart McKinney, to testify. And so, for a long time, I guess they figured there's no way to prove this. There's no way to prove that Furman said because those tapes are not coming in. Well, who knows? The tapes may come in. If tapes come in, I think that's it. I think you're going to have a very hard time convincing a largely African-American jury that Mark Furman has any credibility as a witness. Boom, period, done. End of story. I got to believe there's a lot of people out there who say, A, OJ did it, B, you got to convict somebody, folks. You got to convict them. You've got to prove they did it, and you've got to prove it convincingly. And if your star witness is a man who gives every appearance of being a racist, Detective Mark Furman, I'd be very uncomfortable about convicting somebody based on Mark Furman. 19 minutes after the hour. The Tom Leykis Show from Los Angeles. Thanks for tuning in. By the way, tomorrow's Tom Leykis Show, you're going to block, his representative said. He had a mental block. That's why he couldn't remember. Also, he wanted to be a big success in Hollywood, and it was all play acting, and he had a mental block. Debbie in Hollywood, California. You're on the Tom Leykis Show, Debbie. Hello.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Debbie.
This thing that Furman is saying about a mental block, I think that's full of BS. Give me a break. The guy is a liar, a lying SOB. And I think OJ's going to get off because of these tapes.
Well, I think you're right.
I think he's one of those...
I think he could very well be acquitted. I really do.
Yeah, I think he's just one of those corrupt cops who planted this glove.
I don't know if he planted it or not, but now his credibility is under question. I mean, this is a weak explanation.
Of course, we can't prove that he did it, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did do it.
Well, I don't know. I do know that the LAPD has had a history of problems with racism and with police brutality and harassment of minorities, and...
There's nothing that the cops do that surprised me.
The fact that Mark Furman is now living... I'm sorry, I hate to say this for our friends in Idaho, but let's face facts. Who's in Idaho?
Oh, potato state.
No, forget potatoes. I love potatoes, okay? And Idaho is beautiful country, but our good friends, the Aryan nations, are often faxing me from Idaho.
I didn't know there was a lot of Aryan members live there.
The Aryan nations has its headquarters near Hayden Lake, Idaho, which is about 40 miles south of where Mark Furman now lives. Also, Ruby Ridge is where Randy Weaver, the white separatist, got it in the shorts.
Wow.
That's about 25 miles from Mark Furman's new residence. So you see what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
You see what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I mean, this is outrageous. And Mark Furman threatening to sue everybody for implying that he's a racist. Well, the word's out, folks.
Yeah, and I wish people would stop dumping on Johnny Cochran. I think Johnny is great.
Well,
I could afford him. I'd want him as
I've never dumped on Johnny Cochran. I'd hire him in a New York minute.
No, I'm not saying you did, but a lot of people...
Yeah, well, I mean, don't tell me he's not a great attorney. He's a great attorney.
Oh, yeah.
He's excellent.
Okay, Tom.
I'll tell you what, if I ever kill someone, the first person I'm calling is Johnny Cochran.
That's the one.
And by the way, you'll hear his first wife on the show tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely going to tune into that one.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Debbie.
Sure, bye-bye.
Take care, bye-bye. Lisa in Tucson, you're on the Tom Leykis show. Hello.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Good.
You going to come throw a party in Tucson soon?
As soon as the station invites me, KTUC, we're there.
All right.
I love Arizona.
Do you? Well, let me tell you, Mr. Potato Head family, that's who lives in Idaho. But nonetheless, okay, the Sleaze team and Mr. Johnny Cochran, the Sleaze team, I'm sorry, but I think he's just as sleazy as he looks, and he just gives off a sleazy air to me. They've succeeded in doing what they set out to do, which is to totally take the focus off this man, O.J. Simpson.
Isn't that... Wait a minute.
Right?
Isn't that his job?
Well, it sure is, but everybody's stupid enough that they're falling for it.
Hey, don't blame Johnny Cochran.
Did you hear Mr. Goldman last night? He should be up there on the prosecution team. Did you hear Ron Goldman's father?
Well, yes, I did. Of course I did. In fact, we played excerpts of it on the show yesterday.
Okay, yeah, well, we didn't get you all day yesterday here, but, I mean, he said it in a nutshell. And, it doesn't make any difference if Furman was the imperial wizard himself. Even if you take away the glove, there's plenty of other evidence that is totally overwhelming to begin with.
But do you think you're going to be able to convince a primarily African-American jury,
I don't know
with your star witness being a man who gives every indication of being just a blatant racist? He's your star witness. Do you think that jury is going to be convinced?
Actually, what concerns me most is not the color of the skin on the jury, but their level of intelligence and understanding. And based on...
And you think people can get beyond that, do you? You think they can get beyond... Mark Furman lied, it seems. It seems he lied on the witness stand.
I think an intelligent, educated person...
He had a mental block.
According to what the people have said.
Why would you believe anything Mark Furman said if he lied about that?
Because even if I totally discount Mark Furman's testimony, there's plenty of other evidence. The limo driver, how does that explain the dark figure walking up the doorstep and then all of a sudden the lights turning on?
I understand that, but I also know human beings, and I know that human beings have a very hard time getting beyond certain things. And I think you tell an African-American that this man sat on the witness stand, said, nope, I never called anybody, never did it, nope, not in a year, not in 6 months, not in 10 years, never, ever, never, ever, over and over and over. And then you play tapes of the guy 6 hours and call him people. I don't know how the jury can, I don't care how intelligent they are, I don't know how you can get beyond that.
I think they should get beyond the fact that that's just only one small part of the evidence, and it has nothing at all. If you want to believe that there was a conspiracy committee, you have to believe that it took the involvement of about 35 people within the LAPD, and it would have been led.
Do you believe Mark Furman had a mental block?
Oh, he has a metal block for a head, yeah.
Yeah, he's a liar, is what I believe.
Well, that was pretty obvious when they asked him, did you ever use the N-word? And he said, that's what I'm saying, that I didn't. I mean, come on, it was pretty obvious right there. But I think that's totally irrelevant. And that's what the Sleaze team has succeeded in, focusing people's attention on that and ignoring...
That's their job. You call them the Sleaze team. Lisa.
Yeah.
If you were accused of a crime, you're not going to hire attorneys who are going to look at both sides, who are going to keep the jury's mind focused on what you're accused of doing.
Well,
they're not a Sleaze team. They did their job.
Ooh, I think they're very sleazy.
How are they sleazy? They're not
because
sleazy.
that man brutally butchered 2 people.
The job of an attorney is to get the client a fair defense, a fair trial, and try to get him off.
Well,
That's their job.
Well, that's why
Their job is not to be fair.
They're trusted in the professional community because of sleazy tactics like that. I think that is sleazy.
What is sleazy?
Terrible. They're not playing
Anything
you with the evidence.
You don't have to play fair. You only have to play. The judge decides what is fair.
This is not Mark.
The jury decides what is fair. The defense team is not under any obligation to play fair. They're under obligation to defend their client. That's their job.
Okay, so if you were on that jury right now, would you be able to acquit him with a clear conscience?
It's not a matter of acquitting him. It is a matter that you cannot convict someone if there is a reasonable doubt.
Considering all the rest of the evidence that is totally overwhelming and everyone else that has testified, do you really believe
if there is a reasonable doubt, you are compelled by law not to convict someone of a crime.
You know what I think the problem is? That people are making the jump from the fact that Mark Furman is a racist to the fact there's a big jump from that statement to believing that O.J. Simpson was framed.
It's not just that he's a racist. He lied on the witness stand. That's one of the most serious things you can possibly do.
Even if you throw out his evidence,
he had a mental block.
Well, his head is a mental block, but that's,
He lied.
You know what I'm amazed?
He lied.
I'm amazed that actually in 1981...
He's the star witness, and he lied on the witness stand, and he got caught.
Well, check this out, though. You heard what he said...
That's a reasonable doubt.
...to the psychiatrist. Why didn't they kick him off the police force then?
Fine.
I can't believe they would actually put somebody back on the police force after...
You don't have to sell me on the LAPD having problems, and it needs fixing.
But I don't understand.
I lived through the riots here in Southern California. You don't have to tell me the LAPD's got major problems. I know.
I don't understand that, though. Somebody could clearly state that he has an impulsive urge to kill people and that they would put this guy back on the street.
Welcome to L.A., Lisa. That's...
Something's wrong. No. Look, see, the sleaze team, they're doing what everybody wants them to do. You're looking at the
They're not sleazy. Lisa. Stop calling them the sleaze team. They are not sleazy.
There's a special place in hell for people like that. Mm-hmm.
What do you think attorneys are supposed to do this week? Your Honor?
I don't think
our client, the evidence is overwhelming. We throw ourselves on the mercy of the court. What are they supposed to do?
I think they should fight fair and play with the evidence.
No, that's not what attorneys do. And I'll tell you something. If I had an attorney, I'd want my attorney to throw every last piece of mud they could throw and do anything they could to muddy up the waters. I don't want them playing fair. I want them to do whatever they can get away with in court to get me off.
I think it's real interesting that the sleaze team is manipulating everybody's thoughts and people are just not even be able to see clearly through the fog and realize that they're doing exactly what they set out to do. They're taking the focus off the fact that this man brutally butchered 2 young human beings. Has nothing at all to do with the fact that...
You can't convict someone if there is a reasonable doubt. That is our system of justice. That's what makes our country the best in the world. Lisa, thank you. 1-800-5800-TOM. Furman, a mental block on these tapes. Carol calling from a car phone in Citrus Heights, California. You're on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hi, Tom. I'm a first-time caller.
Thanks, Carol.
Good to be here, and
Sure.
good to talk to you.
Sure.
I, too, want to cast my disgust in the direction of Mark Furman. My husband is in law enforcement. Every day for the past 12 years, I've watched him go out on the streets and risk his life in many dangerous situations. And what Mark Furman has done to law enforcement is a disgrace. And I also believe that, I hope that the prosecution will distance themselves from him. I hope that they will just appeal to the jury and say, he's a liar, we didn't know it, we're disgusted by this action, and I hope that they prosecute him. And that, but aside from Mark Furman, scientific evidence still points to O.J., and we cannot dismiss this. This case must not hinge on Mark Furman.
But what you say is not necessarily how the jury is going to react. Mark Furman was certainly discussed in the opening remarks by the prosecution as being one of the big witnesses in this trial.
That was before DNA and scientific evidence was exhibited also.
But it doesn't matter. I mean,
he is a key
Mark
witness.
Furman gathered a lot of that evidence.
That's correct.
And now you got the guy who gathered the evidence who it seems to me, is going to be proven to have lied on the witness stand.
But then that still means that the jury is going to have to concede to a conspiracy theory. It's still going to mean that...
No, it doesn't.
Sure it does.
No, it doesn't.
That means that all...
They don't even have to give a reason.
It still means that somehow...
all there needs to be is reasonable doubt. You've already got a case with no murder weapon and no witnesses, and now the star witness, it looks like, will be proven to be a liar.
Cato Kalin, however credible we want to think of him, still heard thumps in the night.
That doesn't prove... It's circumstantial evidence. I mean, again, you already have a case which is built on circumstantial evidence. There is no murder weapon. There is no witness.
There is scientific evidence, Tom, leading O.J. to the scene.
It has to be beyond a reasonable doubt, Carol.
But it's not going to be hinged entirely on Furman.
And you're telling me that if you were African-American, that you could just overlook this?
If I were an African member of this jury?
An African-American member of the jury, you could overlook this?
Well, I would hope that I would be able to, and I trust in these people enough.
I believe people are human.
Yes, but there's
this guy sat in front of a jury and gives every appearance to having lied.
Yes.
Lied.
I'm disgusted with that, too. I'm disgusted.
He had a mental block.
That's no excuse.
That's weak.
No excuse.
No excuse. I think it's a lie.
It is a lie.
Please, let's call a spade, please.
But you know what? It doesn't lead to the... it doesn't mean that all cops are bad.
It doesn't matter. This is the cop who gathered the evidence in the O.J. Simpson trial.
Yes.
This is the cop.
He was not the head of the investigation.
Here's the man who's talking about whether or not evidence was planted, and we've already now got proof, it seems, that he lied. Or he had a mental block.
He was a detective at the scene that was accumulating evidence.
And he was on that witness stand for day after bloody day.
But Tom, there were others.
It doesn't matter. Reasonable doubt. We're not talking about like 50% sure or 60% sure. You have to be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Well, there's so much evidence that leads to O.J. And where are any other possible suspects? And
it's not the other suspects are not on trial here. O.J. Simpson is on trial here.
That's correct.
Where are the other suspects? Maybe they didn't bother to look for any. I mean, put it this way. If there was a conspiracy, why would they bother to be looking for other suspects?
When you talk about his defense being the dream team, I agree with your former caller, who it's the slime team. They have been grasping at straws.
That's their job. That's their job. That is their job.
To get their client off at all costs.
That is their job. That is, I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face, that is their job. Their job is not to sit there and go, Your Honor, we want to be totally fair about this. Forget it. That's not their job.
There's a flaw in our judicial system.
Well, then, blame the judicial system, but don't blame the attorneys. They are doing their job. I'll tell you right now, if I got into trouble with the law, I'll tell you the first people I would call are the people on what you call the slime team. They're the first people I would call.
You know what? They lucked out, and they accused the prosecution of saying they knew this about their client. They knew that their client was this type of a racist.
Fine.
They didn't. They did not. The defense did not know about these tapes until this past week, and yet they accused the prosecution of putting this man on the witness stand, and they did not. No one knew about these tapes. We still don't know about these tapes in its entirety.
It doesn't. All of this is interesting for a talk show, but it is irrelevant.
No.
It is irrelevant. How they came upon the tapes, whether they knew the tapes existed or not,
my point is
whether they knew what was on the tapes or not, whether they had heard the tapes or not, whether they were lucky or not, is all irrelevant. All that matters, there are 12 human beings who are on the jury who have to make a decision, and the majority of them are African American, and African Americans have a particular experience that's different from people who are not African American, and African Americans do react strongly to people, especially cops, who use that word. And it's human. And it's natural.
And it's very evident that LAPD is corrupt.
Fine. So then you're going to have a problem when you got a guy with good attorneys up there going up against the LAPD.
Well,
and believe me, I've been on the air in Los Angeles for over 7 years talking about the flaws in the LAPD. There's nothing new here, and believe me, anybody who lives in LA knows about the problems and the history of racism in the Los Angeles Police Department. And it is a viable defense for an awful lot of people, because the experience of people who live in Los Angeles, if they are African American, and in some cases if they are Hispanic, is that they have been harassed at least once in their lifetime by cops. They have been pulled over for no reason by cops. We saw Don Jackson in Long Beach, which is a different police department. We saw Don Jackson, the former Hawthorne police officer. We saw him get his head put through a plate glass window on videotape on national television by cops in Long Beach. We have seen what cops have done to African Americans in Southern California, and therefore it can be a very effective defense when you're talking about people who have gone through generations of harassment.
And they continue to put themselves in that position. They choose to use this racial card as an excuse, and they will continue to use this card.
Well, maybe the LAPD ought to get its act together, and then people wouldn't be able to use it as an excuse.
Not only LAPD, though, Tom. My husband was down there during the riots.
So was I.
Yeah, your life was on the line.
Hey, I worked in Koreatown, and I had to drive through the riot to get to work. Let me tell you, my life was on the line. Don't tell me my life wasn't on the line. I had to drive through gunfire going to work. I had to drive through burning buildings to get to work.
We saw those.
Don't tell me my life wasn't on the line. I walked out my front door and I could smell smoke during the LA riots in 1992. Don't tell me. I'll tell you.
Those people were destroying their own community for no...
Those people? What people? Who were the people?
The people in L.A.
What people?
Involved in the riots.
Those people.
Those people...
You know what you're talking about, Carol. Don't try to back off. You're talking about black folks, aren't you?
Well, weren't they the majority of the ones involved in the riots? I believe so.
I don't think they would. No, you know what, Carol? Clearly you weren't here, because all kinds of people, all kinds of people got involved in the riots. All kinds of people. I saw a Circuit City location in Hollywood where the people who were wheeling out refrigerators on hand trucks were these wannabe musicians with long hair, white guys in black leather jackets wheeling refrigerators out. All kinds of people were involved in the riots.
Well, I'd like to see him put a fence around the city and burn it to the ground.
Well, thanks so much for that, Carol. We really appreciate it. Are you related to Darryl Strawberry by any chance? I don't know. 17 minutes before the hour. My name is Tom Leykis.
This is the Tom Leykis Show.
Discover. 13 minutes before the hour. You're on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
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 How are you?
Good.
You're a pretty passionate guy, aren't you?
I am.
Boy.
You don't mind, do you?
Huh?
You don't mind, do you?
No, not at all. Hey, I just wanted to say I was listening to the news, and just a few minutes before I called your show, and some guy, and I should have written down his name, I didn't, was saying that Mark Furman, he's talked to Mark Furman. Mark Furman says those tapes were made as the basis of a novel. I don't know where you're getting this mental block.
The question, well, no, because there was a press conference today.
I haven't heard the thing about the mental block.
I'm telling you, there was a press conference.
Okay, I believe you.
And the question was not, have you used the word in anything except a fictional context? The question was,
I know, there was
have
probably
you
two
used
separate
it?
ones.
All right. The question was, have you used it? And he said no.
Yeah, I know.
And he said no repeatedly, and they asked the question 26 different ways, and he was Mr. Stoic, and he kept saying no, 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 no.
Guess what?
He did use it.
I don't care who got on that witness stand for the defense or the prosecution. Doesn't matter. O.J. was out the door, acquitted, or hung jury the day the trial started.
Well, I don't know if that's true. It was my belief.
He's off. You know?
Well, I think he's off now.
Well, that's too bad. That's a shame. That really is a shame.
Well?
But, nobody was getting their hopes up that the guy was going to get convicted. Everybody I've ever talked to or talk shows I've listened to, it's like, oh, he's out of there. They'll never convict him. Yeah. L.A. jury? Oh, my God.
Well, you say an L.A. jury. I mean...
Well...
Believe me, there's a lot of folks there. Let me tell you, there are a lot of black folks convicted of crimes in Los Angeles.
Oh, I'm sure.
A lot of them.
Not famous
by
ones.
African American juries. Believe me.
Not famous ones.
Well, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. If an African American committed a crime and it was clear, he would be convicted. Period.
Really?
Sure.
You believe that about anybody with money?
But this way, I don't care what color they are.
Or the sleaze team for a defense. And
why do you call them the sleaze team?
They got tons of money. I don't want.
Did they do anything? Did they do anything you wouldn't want them to do for you?
No, and I don't. You're right. I don't want.
They're not sleazy.
I don't want to get into that whole big argument.
They're not sleazy.
They make my skin crawl.
Why? Because they did their job?
I guess so.
So you don't like attorneys doing their job?
Not when it's pretty obvious to me. I think you're right. He should throw himself on a sword in front of the judge and go, "You're right. I'm guilty now."
Yeah, well, you're right. And I'm clapping now because I believe in Peter Pan. Okay,
right.
please.
Me too.
Thanks a lot, Gloria.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Leslie in North Hollywood, California. You're on the Tom Leykis Show. Leslie, hello.
Hello, Tom.
Hi.
Yeah, is Furman a liar? Definitely. Is he a racist? Probably. Did he plant the evidence? I don't know. I don't think so. For one reason in particular. How did Furman know that O.J. didn't have an airtight alibi? He wasn't with 200 people at the time it happened. I mean, he could have really hung himself. So I think it's really, really thin that he planted the evidence. His credibility is definitely down the tubes.
That's right.
But, what about these, the BS that O.J.'s been spewing? First of all, the reason he missed the limo is because he was asleep. And then he was practicing chip shots. And, he cut his hand on the cell phone in his car. And then he cut it in Chicago. I mean, come on.
All you have to do in a murder case, or in fact any case,
is reasonable doubt.
Reasonable doubt.
I understand.
All you have to do, all of this other stuff is just out the window. Now, here's the thing. People are getting so upset about this because they don't know how the justice system works.
No,
this is how it works.
The reason I'm so upset about it is because personal responsibility is now out the door these days. It doesn't matter whether you did it or not. One of Shapiro's clients, a guy had killed his wife, several years back. Shapiro got him off with a measly 5 years. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is not penance in my book. I'm terribly sorry.
Don't blame the attorneys.
Oh, I'm not blaming the attorneys. It's definitely the system. And our system isn't all that hot. I'm sorry. It really isn't. But I just, really what it's come down to is we've completely forgotten about the victims. And, what it appears to be now is who cares? It was just a Jew boy and some white girl got killed. Who cares? And that's what's sad.
Leslie, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Appreciate the call. 9 minutes before the hour. My name is Tom Leykis.
You're listening to the Tom Leykis Show.
Well, thanks for tuning in. We are 1-800-5800-TOM. This is Chris, a first-time caller from San Francisco. Chris, you're on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
I was partying last night with the listeners, so my voice is a little shot today. I hope you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Okay, good.